In the spring of 2013, I had the pleasure of coming to Australia twice, thanks to Alzheimer's Australia, which was hosting an exhibit of my photographs of high-quality Alzheimer's care in 7 countries. During that time, I met with many people, one of whom was a woman named Daniela Greenwood, who was working with a corporation named Arcare to change the culture of care from one in which they were already extremely successful, but to one in which relationships came really to the forefront. Changes that have been recommended for many years but have not been implemented in very many places. I asked if I could have the opportunity to visit one of those places, and I was allowed to come to Helensvale this year when I came back again to photograph for 5 days, and it met all my expectations and more.
We believe that developing open and respectful relationships between families, staff and residents is the most important thing we do.
So the environment in residential care really has 2 parts. The first part is the physical environment. Well, the physical environment for Helensvale was already perfect, as far as I could see. So the second part of the environment that's so crucial in residential senior care is the human environment, and that's where the redesign began to take place. Through visionary leadership at the top corporate levels, new ideas were introduced about the crucial nature of relationship between staff and resident. The understanding that without cultivation of a close and caring relationship that was as rewarding for staff as it was for residents, there would be no high quality care.
It's very easy to say we believe relationships are important and we really value them, but this company says we believe it's the most important thing we do.
It starts with, I suppose, myself as an individual coming to work each day and thinking, how can I affect somebody's life here? How can I do more of what people want to make them happy? Each person is trying to do that, and I feel that it's very contagious.
Talking to residents, talking to staff, talking to families about the things that really mattered to them in terms of the improvements that we wanted to make. We heard the same thing from heaps of different people. It was all about relationships. When cleaners were complimented, whether it was in our compliment forms or when families spoke about them, it was never how well that they cleaned the rooms. It was about the relationships they developed with their mum. And even with the nurses and care staff and maintenance and gardening, it was all about the relationships between people.
And we get to know them more privately, don't we? So yes, we do. Not just on a kitchen hand person with a resi, it's getting down personally with them. So we pretty early on realised we needed to focus on getting more of that and facilitating those relationships and the deepening of them for the good stuff to happen. And so the one thing we put in place that we knew would make the biggest difference to the way we operated was to stop rotating staff around. So it's a really simple model. We call it dedicated staffing because that implies a kind of commitment. But basically it is when staff come to work, they commit to working at least 3 shifts a week. And when they come here, they work with exactly the same residents every time.
Relationships between residents and the staff are really extraordinary because everybody goes way out to make sure that people are treated with respect, with dignity, helped to do things that they can't do, encouraged to do things that they can do.
And that building of relationships is where all the good stuff happens in terms of even understanding people who don't use words anymore. How do we know what they want on a day-to-day basis? How do we help them make choices? We do that because we get in relationships with them and staff get to know little nuances. I think Sally's really happy sleeping at the moment. I'm not going to wake her because I know her so well, and ensuring that we use every skill that we have to make sure we know what they want and don't want.
There are so many examples of things that they do. I think the one that sticks in my mind very, very strongly is the buddy program that they instituted as a completely voluntary thing by staff who wanted to get to know a resident better and have the resident know them better and feel really a friend and not just somebody who's in their care.
Judy took us different places, even to her home, and she cooked a nice meal and it was good. We went to a park once and had fish and chips. And there was children running around and happy, and I was happy because they were happy.
And we ate with our fingers, didn't we?
And we ate with our fingers. Oh, yes, and that was good too. It was school holidays, and the mums were out there with the children, and I thought that was so nice.
There were several people that I spoke to, several people I photographed, and the one that probably stayed with me the most was a staff member, Caroline, who selected as the person she wanted for her buddy a man who had stopped using words perhaps 2 years ago.
I know it sounds silly, but probably Ernest chose me, maybe. I just, I'd never done this sort of work before, and I'd wanted to do it. And I don't know, I was just drawn to Ernest. I'd go home thinking what it'd be like to be in this position, and what he would be missing was probably human touch. Opens my heart, that's what he does.
Over the short time that I watched this, his hands relaxed. He allowed her to come into his space, and you could see that he was very much with her, even though he wasn't talking, that he was happy to have somebody with him and that they were together in the best sense of the word.
Yeah, I think we do have a special language, a special way of communicating. Just not through words. Again, it's human touch, and it's just one human relating to another human.
It's difficult for most of us to do. Most of us rely on words and think that that's the only form of communication that's powerful. It was a pleasure to share that moment of connection between two people.
But I feel the blessed one. I feel the lucky one. Is that right, Ernest? You've taught me to be patient and wait, haven't you?
What you get out of being buddies is I can't really explain. It makes me feel good inside when Faye and I are together, and I love it when Faye laughs. She's got a very loud laugh and I really love it. So I like to think that Faye participates in more activities so that when we meet in a fortnight, she's got things to talk about, which in turn makes me get up and go and do things and see things so that when I come, I've got things to contribute to the conversation. So it's not a one-way street with Faye and I.
As Beryl said when we were coming home, that by me taking them to my place, they can focus on where I live and what I do and what's in my house when I'm not at work. And we laugh.
Growing old is to be celebrated. It's such an achievement. And a natural part of being human is that we get old and we break down, whether that's physically, mentally. That's what happens if we're lucky enough to get old. And I think the idea that being old and vulnerable equates to being sick is a problem. Old people are vulnerable and they need clinical support and assistance, but that's one small part of what they need. The rest of it's called life.
For certain that we have the clinical aspects taken care of, but I always could see a void and a possibility of developing a program that would add to that and contribute to their sense of well-being, their sense of joy, doing more of what makes everybody happy, not only the residents but the visitors, definitely the staff. So just creating a joyful, happy atmosphere every day, not one day or a special day, every day.
The best thing in the morning is the gym. I'm there for 1 full hour, and I start that machine, the pedaling machine, the bicycle machine, for 1 hour without stopping. But I haven't been doing it. I've been lazy the last 3 weeks, but I'll get back to it shortly.
In 2011, we decided to contribute to our wellness program and develop a Make-A-Wish project. We had 80% of the residents contribute, and with community assistance, with the great efforts of the team I have here individually, with financial support from Arcare, we as a team were able to see all of the wishes of residents come true for that year. So for example, there were extravagant wishes of cruising to Singapore. We had to modify that to cruising to North Stradbroke Island, which was just as fun for the residents. One resident was particularly missing her pet and just craved for a dog and wouldn't even leave her room. I was very fortunate through Guide Dogs Australia to acquire Palace, and just in perfect timing. So Palace was Audrey's best friend and just created so much joy for not only Audrey, but for all of our members of our community.
My husband and I got married here at Helensvale. We met because of the residents on a bus outing. He was the entertainer. They thought he was fabulous. The courtyard is such a beautiful place that we wanted to do it here so all of the residents could be part of it because they were the reason we met.
Along with our complementary hydrotherapy program, we have the full aromatherapy programs, and we all are encouraged to use these spaces. Staff use the space as well when they need a bit of time out, and it's just a lovely quiet area of our home that people can use for their own benefit and add to their sense of well-being.
The Arcare residence at Helensvale is an absolutely beautiful facility filled with natural light, glass everywhere, plants outside that are beautifully kept and cared for.
That smells.
It's nothing like a sage I've met.
No, absolutely
Different.
And this is
that's
this is
beautiful.
Italian parsley, Italian parsley. That, and this one here is where's
That's Russian tarragon.
There's a little worm here. Wait a minute. Now there's not many. Oh, before here we are. There.
Yeah.
There. And all that stuff you're seeing by my worm farm, that's going to go into it. And that'll go, woohoo! Now all these here up here, the struts, they will come hang off that. We might have enough for the family here. Hope so.
Beautiful walking areas for residents to enjoy the outdoors and come and go with great ease. I would love to live at Arcare Helensvale if I ever needed to.
The community here, you didn't need to set up fake activity ideas where the goal was to maintain identity because they were already doing that themselves. People who'd worked in Meals on Wheels and people who'd had that real philosophy of, you know, it's what I do for others that counts. They were finding ways in this community to do it. One man said to me, I've been helping John to eat for the last 2 years and I don't do too much for him. I know when to give the fork and I let him do the rest himself. And as I heard him speaking, I'm thinking, that's best practice dementia care. He's embodied with that knowledge anyway. He didn't go to staff training. So these community members, as he said to me, we're very sympathetic for each other's little idiosyncrasies, you know, and we look after one another here.
Being part of our Helensvale community is about contributing as much love, empathy, understanding, care and service to the residents that live here. And when I say that, they all look after each other as well.
Good citizens look after one another, and the people here manage that. 72 to 75% of the people here have dementia, and that's from moderate to very severe, but there is no dementia specific unit. There's a real sense of do unto others, and I treat people like that because what if that were me one day? This is how I'd want to be treated.
It's high quality because as a sociologist I know that there are diseases that do things to our bodies, but a great deal of the symptoms that people have is not because of the disease in our bodies, but because of the way other people treat us. And when people treat us as still being present, as still having capacities, encourage us, establish relationships with us, a great many of the symptoms that we see in people in dementia care disappear, or at least are substantially reduced, and they can be people who are happy and who engage in many activities.
There's that idea that moving into, just because you change your address, it doesn't mean that you're assigning over your human rights, and nor does it mean that you're giving up your citizenship responsibilities.
Did I go and cheer her up?
You have morning tea with her? You take a cup of
I take my cup over and have it with her.
Great.
Yes.
We need to be building dementia-friendly residential communities. And these need to be seen as fantastic choices for families, not as a failing of families. Isn't it a better option to live in a community like this, to get support when you need it, and to be part of a community and still a citizen who is needed?
Which is, I think, is a great thing for the residents. They're not just sort of a part of the furniture in here, they're part of a community that we sort of like to build up to.
This culture feels completely personal and personalizable.
The thing that was most impressive to me was that this was a change that was being effected throughout the company. That's unusual. It's a hard enough job to make a change in one place, but to take a new philosophy, implement it across the entire company is really something I think quite extraordinary.
Just having fun and seeing that things are possible. Anything is possible. And no matter what age you are and what your capabilities, we can make it possible.
Oh yeah, and plenty of laughter, yes we do, because laughter is a good therapy. Oh.